Hey, this is Brian. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. Today, we are very excited to announce our new partnership with Evolution Racewerks. As you may be aware, the N55 has a very weak charge pipe because BMW decided to use a plastic one. Today, we're going to show you how to install the Evolution Racewerks charge pipe for the N55. Now, for this installation, it's highly recommended to either have a lift or to just put the front of the vehicle up on jack stands. So here's a quick look of all the components. So you can see we have the charge pipe, we have the coupler that goes in between the two pieces, some clamps to hold it down, and the kit also includes some new screws to secure your sensor. You always want to make sure that you use the provided screws because they're meant to match the threading in the actual charge pipe. Now what I like to do at this point is go ahead and remove the belly pan underneath here. It's held in by 22 8mm screws. So just go ahead and remove all of the screws and then go ahead and move that belly pan down. And that'll make sure that we have plenty of space to work. So here's a snapshot of the belly pan. You can see that there's just little holes everywhere. So just make sure that you take all of those out. Be very careful that you don't get any dirt or water or any debris in your eyes when you're removing this. All right, so now we're really ready to get started. The first thing you want to do is go ahead and disconnect the map sensor. So I have a JB4 on it, so my connection might look a little bit different than yours, but it's basically the same connection. Once you've removed this connection from the sensor, what you want to do is go ahead, I'm just going to remove it now so it doesn't get damaged when we go to pull it out. It's a T20, so there's just two screws, one here on the top, one on the bottom. Be very careful when you're taking the sensor out. And I'm just going to just very gently remove this sensor. Okay, so there's one of the screws. Get the other one now. Now I like to use a thumb driver when I'm in really tight spots. I'll show you that in just a second here. Second screw, so little thumb driver, you can just put any size bit. Just makes it very easy to get into really tight spots like this. Okay, so then what you want to do is just very gently, very slowly and carefully pull that sensor out. You can see there it is. So we're just going to put that over here to the side. Okay, now what we need to do is remove this retaining clip. So I like to just use a little pick tool. You just slide it in here. Comes off nice and easy. Just lift it up. You can leave it right like that for now. Or what you can do is you can just kind of wiggle the sides out. Okay. And this is what it looks like. And I'm just gonna put that right to the side for a second. Now if you have an automatic, you're going to have a vacuum line. So what you want to do is just like the one that's on your intake, there's a little tab on the front and there's a little tab on the back. So pinch the front and the back and then remove that. It's going to be a little bit hard to show because it's a little bit of a weird angle. Okay, we remove that. Now the last connection, so you can see the charge pipe goes in here, is right down here. There's one more grommet that holds everything in place. So what we'll do is we'll pull this off of here and then we'll slowly work this out here. Okay, so we're at a little bit of a different angle, but again, the grommet is down here by my finger. So what you can do is go ahead and pull this down off of the throttle body. And then you want to try to push this grommet through. It's a little bit tight, but it's not too bad. Okay, and that was enough to loosen it up down there as well. So you can see it's completely disconnected from the throttle body. And then down here, we are out of the little grommet and we're ready for the bottom. Here's a shot of the grommet. You can see down here that everything is completely released from the rubber there. Okay, so right now we are underneath the car. You can see this is the intercooler right here. And then up here is the other end of the charge pipe. So we're going to go ahead and we need to remove this retaining clip. Now to do that, there are two plastic fasteners. There's one over here by my middle finger, and then there's one on the opposite side. These are a little bit tricky, but what you want to do is go ahead and reach around and then you just pull them down really hard and then they pop off. So it does take a little bit of force. It's not the easiest thing in the world. Just be patient with it and you'll be able to get it. So just reach up. And then just pull it down. This one's really tight. I'm just gonna go ahead and use a trim tool to help me pry down some on it. Okay, so I got that side. I'm just gonna reach around to the other side. Just be very careful with this because it is a little bit on the sharp side. So you don't want to cut yourself on it. All right, had to do a little tripod rearrangement so I could get out of there, but this is that black plastic clip. So here's just a little bit of a look to see what this black plastic clip is actually holding on to. So when it's installed, it's pressed up in here. So you can see that there's these little black tabs that are in here, and you're pressing them out of this little crevice right there. So there's a little groove, and then you have to snap these out through here. So that's why it's so hard. They make it easy to go in, you know, obviously, because they're gonna install it that way. But it's very difficult to remove. But once you have them out, it's a piece of cake. Like I was saying before, I found it very beneficial if you get some kind of screwdriver or trim tool and then just really force it down. Otherwise, it really hurts your hands. And this is gonna make it a heck of a lot easier and a lot faster as well. All right, now what I like to do is I like to just loosen the right side. And get in there and release the back of the left side, and then just pull this clip straight out. Once you've done that, you can reach your hand up and you can separate your charge pipe from the intercooler. Okay, so there we go. Now that's loose. All right, so now that you know how to remove those retaining clips and everything, go ahead and do it on the other side. Now, if you're having any trouble getting that center portion out, what you want to do is just slide the pipe down just ever so slightly, and then that'll enable you to pull that the rest of the way out. Sometimes what happens is the pipe shifts a little bit, and it makes that middle portion just a little bit difficult to come out. So this one just needs to be pulled down a little bit, and I'll be able to pop it right out. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and disconnect that side as well. All right, so we've gone ahead and we've removed both of these clips on the intercooler, so we're making some really good progress. Now what we wanna do is we need to make it a little bit easier to get the intercooler out, and then also to make sure that we can get this old charge pipe out and get the new one in. So there's two clips right here that hold the coolant line. Now we're not disconnecting the coolant line, we're not doing anything of that nature. We're just going to make it a little bit more flexible so it's a little bit easier to work with. So go ahead and take a trim tool or a screwdriver, whatever makes you happy. I'm gonna pop these up. All right, so we've popped these tabs out. Now we are going to go ahead and remove that center portion. Now if you don't have a special tool for this or anything, that's okay, because you can just go ahead and pull it out with pliers or a screwdriver and you'll be okay. Okay. All right, so at this point, this entire piece right here is loose. So this is gonna make it just a lot easier for us to be able to get this charge pipe and make sure that we get that out of the way. I'm also going to remove this right here just to make it just a little bit easier to work with. Just make sure everything a little bit more flexible. Okay, so now we can see that we have, it's a lot easier to work with at this point. All right, so now grab yourself a T25, and we need to remove the T25s that hold the intercooler in place. So there's one right here, and then there's also one on the other side of the car. Okay, there's the one. Go ahead and remove the other one. All right, so once you remove those two T25s, just go ahead and just very carefully slide it down. Now, it's not really a good idea to sit right under it when it's coming down. Okay. There's the lovely stuff up there. All right, so once you have your intercooler out, go ahead and grab your charge pipe and just very carefully start to twist and pull it down. You might want to just start down here, then go up top, take a look, and then try to guide it down a little bit and then come back down. So I'm gonna go up to the top, try to guide it down. Now, if you have a second person, it'd be very beneficial to have them right now. This is gonna take a lot of pulling, a lot of twisting. It doesn't just come out super easy. So just go slow, take your time. Just to give you a better sense of what I'm doing up here, I'm just grabbing the charge pipe really. I'm just trying to see where else it'll go through. Make sure that you're just avoiding any wires or vacuum lines or anything of that nature. And just go ahead and just keep twisting it, keep pulling it, and then eventually it'll come free. Okay. Let's go take a look up top. Again, make sure you're not getting stuck on anything, and if you are, see where you're getting stuck on so that you can just gently guide it down. What you want to do is very carefully pry out. There's an O-ring in here. So you want to make sure that you take that out, and then we're going to swap it over into the new one. Just make sure that everything sits flush when you do this, because you want to make sure that it has a really nice, really tight seal. It's a good idea to kind of wipe it off, make sure that there's no dirt and grime on it as well. So you can see it, everything sits absolutely perfect. And then on the other side, the intercooler side, there's another one. Let's go ahead and take that out. Try not to ding your new pipe. And then same thing, just go ahead and put this in here. I'm just gonna make it so I can see it for a second. Okay, that one's kind of an odd shape, so it's a little more difficult, but as you can see, not too much. All right, so now what you can do is go ahead and take that map sensor, just very carefully. You want to make sure that everything is seated correctly. Make sure that you use the new screws that were provided for this, because these are going to match the thread pattern. Otherwise, you could strip it out and it won't be good. These are just a 4mm, so you can just use a regular Allen key to tighten these up. All right, everything is seated correctly with that. We're just gonna put this over here to the side. All right, so now it's time to put the charge pipe together. So what you wanna do is go ahead and take your silicone tube. Make sure that you put your clamp on first. Just press that in, like so. And do the same thing for the other side. Then what you want to do is basically just match how this one looks. So you can see it's a little lopsided right now. And the closer you can get this, the easier it's going to be. So that looks pretty good right about there. Then at this point we can go ahead and use a 10mm. You can just tighten this down. You don't have to go too crazy here, just go hand tight. We have our O-ring seated here, and then we have our other seal correctly seated in here, and then we also have our sensor pre-mounted. So let's go ahead and we'll drop this in the top and start installing it. All right, so now what we want to do is start at the top here. We want to feed our new charge pipe through. It may take a little bending and twisting to get it to seat in the correct position. Just go slow. Make sure that you're periodically checking from the bottom, making sure that everything is feeding through the correct spot, and then be very careful of your sensor here since it's already mounted. If you have a second person, it really makes this part a lot easier, just because somebody can be watching the bottom while you're watching the top. This is just giving me just a little bit of trouble, so I'm just going to go ahead and take that top part off just to make this part a little bit easier to get in here. This way I can do a little more twisting and make sure that it sits right where I want it to go. And then go ahead and just put your clamp back on if you did have to take it off. And now that we're pretty much there, Just want to make sure that we have the right angle down. All right, our angle looks perfect from down there. So now we're going to go ahead and reinstall our intercooler. We're going to reinstall the charge pipes, and we're going to finish everything up, and we'll be all done. All right, so now what we're going to do is reassemble everything in the reverse order it was taken apart. When you're installing your intercooler, you'll see this piece right here, and there's a groove that's actually going to line up in. So that really helps when you're trying to put everything back here. Okay, this side looks good. This side looks good as well. There we go. All right, so now what you can do is go ahead and take those screws that you took out originally, and you can just reinstall them. Once you get the one in, you don't have to hold the intercooler up as much. The good thing is it's super light. Just make sure that everything is lined up. Make sure that the pipe is going into the charge pipes, which these are. Everything looks really good. Okay. All right, then what you can do is go ahead and take these clips and then go ahead and reinstall them. Just make sure that you have these in correctly, because this is what is holding your charge pipe on. Everything is nice and tight there. You get the safety clip. Put this back on. All right, so then get your new charge pipe from Evolution Racewerks. Line this up. All right, so once you have that flush, go ahead and get that retaining clip. Pop that in. And the real test is if it clips in, that's how you know that you have it installed correctly. If not, you may need to do a little wiggle work and try to get that to go in. Now what I like to do at this point is press in on the clip and then wiggle your charge pipe, and then you'll feel it clip in. And that's exactly what you want it to do. All right, so that is nice and secure now. All right, so at this point, go ahead and take those plastic fasteners. Just reinstall your coolant line here. You just press them in, and then press the rest in. Do the same thing with this one. Okay, and then if you remove this, just go ahead and clip that back. Okay. All right, so that's pretty much it. So now what we need to do is go ahead up top, make sure that everything else is completely tightened down. Tighten up that T-clamp. Now what I like to do is I like to use an extension. I have this little bit that goes onto my drill, because otherwise it's kind of a weird spot. And what you can do, you don't want to go crazy tight on this. All right, so as you're doing this, always be very mindful of the bolt location. You can see this one down here is hitting over this way, so you want to make sure that that's not going to hit anything. And then also, this is the one we just tightened down, so you can see it's a nice straight angle, easy to tighten down, and it's out of the way. So I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that this is back all the way up. I'm going to put the clip back in. Once you've installed your charge pipe, you may notice that there is a small gap right there, and that is perfectly normal. That's for heat expansion. And then if you had to disconnect that vacuum line while you're here, you can go ahead and put that in as well. All right, so at this point, everything is completely installed. We just have to go ahead and put the underbelly pan on. Make sure that you check for any extra screws. There was about 22 of those 8mm screws, so you don't want to run over any of them. Again, this is Brian. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. If you are interested in an Evolution Racewerks charge pipe for your BMW, we have them available at kiesmotorsports.com. As always, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.